President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led federal government has kicked against Professor Pat Utomi'S shadow government. Utomi inaugurated the shadow government composed of members from various opposition parties. Big Tent Coalition shadow government, launched virtually on Monday evening, will function as a credible opposition force, highlighting the failures of the Bola Tinubu administration while offering ideas for better governance. While reacting to Utomi's shadow government, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, described it as an aberration in a federal system of government. And to have this conversation on Pat Utomi's shadow government with us this evening on Zoom is Pat OBIENE, civil rights activist. Good evening, Pat, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for inviting me.
All right, straight away. This is actually novel. Since this dispensation of democracy, we are hearing this for the first time. And I don't think Nigeria is in a war situation. And someone who is a politician, who's been a politician for as long as I can remember, who is well-lettered, who is well-exposed, says he has formed a shadow government. By the way, what does he mean by that? What's a shadow government?
Well, from the ordinary meaning, or you can call it the universal meaning and understanding, it's a government or a system that refers to some individuals or groups who secretly can influence or control governance, policies, and decisions, without being directly accountable to the public, nor formal government institutions. I think better put that's what a shadow government is.
Constitutionally right. Do you think it is what the federal government of Nigeria will tolerate? If it's legal, actually, there's nothing anybody can do about it. But is it really?
Well, I think first things first, a couple of issues and factors surrounding this move. You know, there is, as a student of law, we are familiar with a theory that says it is illegal to be lawful in a lawless society, unquote. First, there has been a growing culture. Maybe many Nigerians, the governed or the electorates or the led, had not really bothered or taken time to understand it. And we have a very fundamental problem. Since 99, we had a chance to return to a democratic society. Let's forgive the military days. The average Nigerian is yet to realize that the Constitution is not an exclusive book or document for lawyers and the law courts. It's more like the Bible to the citizens. And therefore, you don't see the culture of Nigerians taking to study. Even, yes, the argument that the Constitution doesn't really represent, it wasn't a product. If you go by Professor Nwabweze's argument of the autochthony of the Constitution, which is something that must be homegrown, something that must actually emanate from people. But be that as it may, it is what it is. So, but in that, because it is what it is, there is another principle called constitutionalism in a constitutional democracy. And it simply means the principle, or refers to the ability for government, public officials, operators of public offices to carry out their functions, and responsibilities in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution. And hence, I would like us to look at first the supremacy of the Constitution, because I like the way you put the question, the legality surrounding Professor Pat Utomi's move and the argument from the end of the government image maker. If you look at the Supremacy Section 1, Sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it says the Federal Republic of no, okay, let's take one. The Constitution is supreme, and its provisions shall have binding force on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's quickly look at sub 2. It says, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall not be governed, nor shall any person or group of persons take control of the government of Nigeria or any part thereof, except in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Are you with me? Now, let's place that side by side with section 14. And what does section 14 say? It talks about the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Sub 1 of section 14 says, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principles of democracy and social justice. Sub 2 of that section 14 says, it is hereby accordingly declared that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this Constitution derives all its powers and authority. Fine. Now I decided to do this so that we can form an intellectual and an authoritative background to the arguments. Now, if you go back to the supremacy, when the first one talks about that, the shall have binding force. I want to think that the Utomi'S move first is born out of the growing frustration by the meted out by the leadership, the political class, that the crop of leaders, the political Nigeria, had conducted themselves in a manner in which is in violation with the supremacy of the Constitution. I just need us to take note of that. And we can go further when you look at, now this is where the argument of their party is an aberration. If the government, the operators of the government, had conducted themselves manifestly in a way that they do not want to submit themselves to the binding force of the Constitution, e.g., we could see how the executive, under the leadership of the APC government, has succeeded in penetrating and manipulating the judiciary to the extent that there is a growing trend of selective justice. And when such conditions begin to emanate in a constitutional democracy, the electorates and the citizens will begin to gradually, resign to that legal theory I quoted earlier, which says it is illegal to be lawful in a lawless society. There is a growing culture of lack of financial discipline and transparency. There is a growing culture of the reign of impunity by government officials and their operators. There is a growing trend of abuse, gross abuse of the rule of law. Now, if you put all these together, it amounts to an accumulation of unbearable frustration. Hence, some people think they needed to start forming, in fact, let me quickly add, of course, which is a recent one. You know that there are growing speculations that with the gale of defection from the supposed opposition party PDP, even if we have over how many of them, like Ine could tell us, but the PDP is expected to be the formidable. But unfortunately, in recent days, we can see. So now this gale of defection is making many Nigerians to raise speculations and point to the fact that it appears the APC government has succeeded in drifting Nigerians to a one-party state. And nature abhors vacuum. One of the core values of a constitutional democracy and a succeeding democracy is that there must be, or even in a representative system of government, there must be a credible opposition. In fact, days ago, we had this conversation in a sister session, and I put it subtly to say, it appears if this succeeds, that we are drifting to a one-party state in Nigeria, a party system in Nigeria, then it means that the churches and civil societies will be the ones to begin to provide credible opposition. And some people laugh somehow. But they are critical stakeholders. But because there is need, the vacuum, we can't leave that vacuum. There must be a semblance of a credible opposition. This is not to justify the legality behind the shadow government, but I'm trying to lay the prevailing circumstance that could compel these individuals to say it appears we've come to a point in Nigeria where there is unavoidable need for a shadow government. Of course, they operate secretly, they act behind the scenes and have great undue influence, either financially, on government or departments and institutions. And the danger behind it, why the ruling party and the government fear, is that they could, undermine public trust. But if you place it, if you subject all these feelings, all these speculation to the test of equity, you will see that the government in power also has fallen short, is guilty of the principles of equity. Because what can be more of an aberration than the manner in which we see the government in power carry on with public affairs in violation of even the core responsibility in the same section 14 sub 1, which is the primary responsibility of government, is to provide for the welfare and security of its citizens. And clearly evidence abound that the government has not, manifestly demonstrated, clear intention and clear cut out, well thought out plans, actionable plans that directly takes care of the welfare and security of the people. In terms of attitude, you see the President Tinubu was out how many weeks, came back, there was that humanity wasn't there to directly go visit those who are victims. He couldn't even cut short his stay in it wherever he went to. And of course, look at the reason. He said he went to review. Even the process you're reviewing, and part of what you're reviewing is having challenge. Your people are subjected to terrorism and threats and killings here and there. And it's not part of what you should review by running back. So I think that it is neither here nor there on both sides to really say the shadow government is completely wrong from the background I've laid. So I think on one hand, while it is unknown to our laws, because they are not directly accountable to the public, but the substance, the area that the importance of the existence or emergence is relevant to the circumstance, the political development in Nigeria and the economic crisis now, is that there is need to provide credible opposition. If you ask me, is to that extent, I don't really share that it's an aberration. It's an aberration to the extent that, yes, it's inconsistent with our law, but in practical reality, we cannot afford to accept where everything that the governing party does is correct, even when clearly we can see that it doesn't really represent the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians.
Okay, Pat, in what ways does this shadow government promote public engagement and also political participation among Nigerian citizens?
Yes, that is what you find if we quickly look at that section 14 again. I'm glad you put this question. Having said that, if you look at very quickly, the same constitution guarantees the participation of the citizens. That's under section 14, right? When you look at, okay, yeah, sub C, section 14, sub 2, sub C, it says the participation by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provision of this constitution. So you can see, going by that provision too, it gives some legal authority to members of the shadow government, right? Is arguable. And that is one aspect that has been missing all these years. The people of Nigeria have not actually been effectively participating in the process of governance, in the process of formulating government policies and programs. And that is largely responsible. That accounts for all these violent crimes and undermining of the economy and lack of economic growth and creating of artificial poverty, social unrest here and there. Because the people are not seen to participate. So that's why I'm happy you really put. So you can see the justification why there is need for a body and effort like this. Let me use that word. There is need for this effort because it is just unthinkable. The manner in which the Nigerian government and its leaders are carrying on is like the rest of us are conquered. It's like we don't have a stake in the project of Nigeria. Look at now, for example, look at what is happening in the parliament. Look at the way the Senate president is carrying on. A court has just convicted the man who presided over his election, and he's still seated there comfortably. Is that not an aberration? Is that not an aberration? And makes remarks that really demean the dignity and discipline of Nigerians. He's from a Senate president. The other day he was trying to justify poverty. He came back from Rome. He said it's not a crime. The protest efforts were made to carry protest, peaceful protest as part of legitimate democratic responsibility. He says while we protest, he will sit back and enjoy his chicken and rice. From a Senate president, from the number one person that should be a watchdog, that should be able to provide some balance between the executive, the government, and the people. So, in fact, from beginning, I knew that there was nothing responsible, so to speak. No responsible attention can come from the crop of leaders we have as government. So, this is going to probably inspire the Nigerian people, provide them the platform, because this shadow government will try to see how much they can influence the governance process, the policies of this government, the decisions of this government. And so that will indirectly provide the opportunity and platform for the people to begin to be seen to effectively participate. For example, little me here, I'm making efforts a team. I'm in the process to trying to get a corporate platform, civil society, we are in the process to conclude the registration. Part of the first way is to mobilize the Nigerians to activate this constitutional instrument of recall. Start recalling, despite the cumbersome process, we can even apply to the courts to force them to begin to amend certain provisions in that section so that it will be a little bit seamless, right? Because that's one way the people can be seen participating. It's not only during elections, which is another aberration. They've succeeded. The political class has succeeded in making the Nigerian people think that good governance and dividend of democracy begins and ends the day you cast your vote and you go and stay for a while. The ink disappears from your finger, and that's the end. You have no other role to play. When budgets are planned, the citizens don't have a role to play. Just like now, this another opportunity to share largesse of calling for security summit. What have they been doing? 109 senators, 360 member House of Rep members. There is no media report record anywhere that they've been seen in their various constituencies engaging the people to have a face-to-face, one-on-one debate, deliberations, resolutions on what actually is their socioeconomic challenges. I bet you, if you go investigate some of what is responsible for the one of the contributing factors, this increasing violent crimes across Nigeria, you'll be shocked that first, beyond just the economic people struggling to non-state actors to mine solid minerals for themselves, some understand that they have representatives, they have leaders who represent them, but physically they don't even know how they look like. And a lot of the grievances in their heart that they want to pour out, they expect this senator, this honorable member, to retire back to the constituency and hear from them, since they cannot reach the president directly. And year after year, month after, they wait and wait. They only just hear. Sometimes they all hear in the news, the man's name is mentioned. They don't know how it looks like, whether he has a big nose, a short leg. And they are yearning, and you get to say, they want to say, look, this is our senator. We are a boundary community. We have advantage of this economy, but this is a security challenge. Can you please go back to the floor, mobilize the Senate to tell the president to say, look, before the next budget, let them prioritize attention this area, and we all be good for it. They can't find that man, so what do? They resort to self-help. They do it the best possible way they could. And the worst of it all, because they will do it in their primitive state, it creates all these problems you're seeing. So, if that is that not also an aberration? In UK, if you miss your city, that thing they call sitting allowance here, they call it this going to visit, have constituency town hall meetings. They call it clinics. And if you're not seen participating, getting the people that go and engage the people in deliberations and debates, so that you can get firsthand, the socioeconomic challenges prevailing at the time, you will be denied this thing you call sitting allowance in Nigeria. Just like yesterday, imagine I was just sharing it somewhere earlier today. You were this Senator Mingi and Abaribe making a case regarding the planned or proposed summit. I don't know. Let me ask you, if you follow that proceeding, you see, did you notice how vacant the majority of the seats were? Did you notice how vacant they were? And it's only in Nigeria you can find that. Something of national importance that even touch security, that it calls for a debate. Now, we are the majority of the senators that comes from these areas that are actually victims of these violent crimes and attacks. Is that not an aberration? You just find very 1, 2, 3, 4 senators having on something. As the camera was scrolling, like if you look, I don't know if you're with me, you will see the whole, and yet these same senators will be given 160 million cars or more, and all manner of sitting allowances and wardrobe allowances, when they can't even be seen on their seats to defend the interests and the aspiration of the people they represent. So does that not make it necessary for a shadow arrangement, even if it's secretive, to be influencing?
Are there other countries where shadow governments have played a significant role? And if there are any, to the best of your knowledge, what points can Nigeria adopt in terms of governance and reforms, as it were?
You see, I may not readily cite one, and you know why it is even rare to find any. Do you know why? Should I tell you? It's because all along, even in the actual government, the people are allowed to participate. A clear example, look at Kenya. You saw what happened last year. How they went into the parliament and burnt down the parliament. What did what was his name again? The man held this way. In less than how many hours, he came back and reverted the obnoxious economic tax policy, where even as little as groundnut oil was increased. He quickly reversed all the imposition of those arbitrary prices. Are you not aware? That's insurrection in Kenya. Now, go back, look at almighty America. Is it not abundantly clear that Donald Trump himself, even before he came back, has he not shown that he is subject to the law? Has he not been answerable to the law? So why I'm saying this is that because these other countries, they even in the actual government, they manifestly demonstrate that both that section 1, so the supremacy of the constitution I quoted to you, they allow it to operate regardless the political interest and near non-perfection. You might argue to say, yes, there is corruption everywhere. Yeah, we know. But we are talking about prevailing circumstances, conditions that will not force people to contemplate a shadow government. You can't find it, because regardless what happens there, look at the same, the France that our president flew to say he's going to do a review of his performance. Macron and myself were age mates. In 2018, if you recall the yellow vest famous protest in France, what led to it? Was it not energy crisis? The minimum protesters you find in the cities of France will be 50,000 young men and women. And Macron will always be in front and tell the French police not to arrest anybody. Even when they do, he ordered them to release them. Now, at the peak of that protest that lasted close to a year, Macron did not only resolve the energy crisis, he went ahead to increase salaries. In France, it's on record. You are in media, you quickly click on your button, you see the reports. So I don't know if you follow me. So if you have countries that, while living in the actual government, and the people perceive unpopular policies, bad governance, and they make attempts to draw the attention of the political class and the government, and you see a government willing to listen, whether by commission or omission. Now, I've cited Kenya, I've cited France, I've cited US. Kenya's one you can see. What's that about our friend's name? I don't know if you could just remember. In Kenya, the president. You saw it was shortly after his election. The people he came up with, perhaps his team, his handlers didn't advise him correctly. He just came and imposed, just like this in our own case, Nigeria, subsidy is gone. And all the attempts we made, did you see a President Bola Tinubu attempt to even listen to what we are saying? Now, where are the dividends of the subsidy? Was it not days ago now? The EFCC, part of the charges against those they are trying to round up under Melekere, that it is now obvious that funds we are meant to repair the 3 refineries, we are all diverted. So where is accountability? Was that not one of the justifications the president gave to just come and announce on subsidy is gone? So you find countries where similar disagreements arise. The people feel dissatisfied and no, government, you can't do this in a unilateral manner. And we see that government respond positively. They did not attempt to suppress the people. So where that happens, there won't be need for a shadow government.
But is it actually proper to wait to be forced to face your responsibility, like in the case of William Ruto that you're talking about, the Kenyan president? Is it the proper thing? Is that what is obtainable in saner climes?
You know, unfortunately, like if you go research, investigate that matter, I think he was wrongly advised. He was ill-advised. And you saw that he did not just, in hours, remember, he did not wait for 72 hours. Immediately he saw that the people had succeeded in burning down the parliament. He quickly ran to the podium and he started with an apology. He started with an apology and said he regrets attempting to introduce that imposition of such prices. It's on record. Now, the emphasis is that yes, that's so it's natural, it's human. He may have thought, there are gatekeepers, they just make you feel desperate when a new guy, they want to feel that those who don't really have the people at heart, say no, they mislead the leaders. That's why even as a leader, you must be careful. It's like what is happening. I look at just which that Desina pointed out, our big brother, the African Development Bank. The same mistake Buhari made with his handlers, the same route that Bola Tinubu is heading to. The handlers keep making you feel it is you against the people. You against the people, that kind of mentality. When actually you should be glad that they are drawing your attention. If somebody says, look, 1960, the economic situation is better than what you have now, are you supposed to perceive it as if it's an enemy? Don't we know who Adesina is, with all his background? What is his interest about your politics? He was speaking from an expert angle, from an economic angle. Instead of you to humble yourself and say, my big brother. Well, I can understand, but can you come close and assist me, explain better? Your hand just came up and you put up a hostile posture. So this we against them political culture, that we against them, and in the end you find the presidents or the governors, they were, as the case may be, believing these handlers. So probably that was a mistake Ruto fell into. And immediately he saw the power of the people, because there is the strongest army you can ever think of is the human spirit. Immediately the human spirit come together, there is no force that can stop it. That was what happened in Kenya. And to show that, like our constitution, that it's binding on all authorities. Well, that's why you see me carefully brought out these two sections. You saw section 14. That sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom this government derives all its powers and authority. So what it means is that the few of them in government, it does not mean that the led or the followers or the electorate, it doesn't mean we are conquered. With the power is shared equally. We have greater power, like our culture, the language culture. So the power to make the law and enforce it actually resides with us. And that was what Ruto demonstrated in Kenya. So the issue of whether you need to be subjective, it depends on the circumstance you find yourself. But naturally, that is particularly in Africa, So a leader shouldn't wait till he's forced. But again, I've just told you the circumstance. Sometimes gatekeepers can be so crazy, and it's old as even the Bible days. There's a lot of abundance of evidence. Look, somebody, 2 Chronicles 18. King Ahab was misled by 400 prophets, always residing with him in the palace. He took only Prophet Micah, but yet because he wouldn't listen, and he met his Waterloo. That's the same thing affecting many of them today, particularly in Nigeria. So I think it's a great lesson now and you can see since then, Kenya has been very calm. Because I'm sure Ruto must have learned his great lesson to say, look, I think there'll be a time where I think out of the box. I don't need to listen to only those who are with me within the palace. I'm using the palace as within my cabinet. I think sometimes I should listen to what the people are saying. And that is how you succeed.
Well, I don't know
That
if
is what is necessary now.
some would consider it as a cowardice approach. That's, I mean, some leaders in this part would think that he told the part of a coward, you know, in listening to the people and doing their bidding. As we conclude part,
Yes.
other than the shadow government, I don't know if there are, okay, maybe I should ask, how else can Nigerians hold the leaders accountable and living up to their responsibility and even in transparency? As we conclude, please.
In the circumstance, it accepts. Edmund Burke had said the only thing necessary for evil to thrive is when good people do nothing. So, in the circumstance, there is urgent need for the people to begin to organize themselves. Probably, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. This shadow move is one of such. Like I told you, I'm making my own little efforts. And in no time, though I have been doing what I've been doing over 20 years now, but I want to give it a more organizational posture.
I hope it will not be a
And
shadow
that's what's
government
necessary.
over the shadow government part.
No, even, are you there? Are you with me? Hello?
I asked,
Hello?
I hope it's not going to be a shadow government. What you are planning, is it going to be a shadow government over the shadow government?
No, okay, that's a cliche now. See, even this interview, right? This interview you engage me in now is part of invaluable efforts, right? Is it not so? Did we call it a shadow government? But I've said a whole lot that can influence and shaping and redirect policymakers, you know, and governance. So the point here is that there is urgent need, in direct answer to your question, there is urgent need. Stakeholders, particularly faith-based, I have always this argument. Right now in Nigeria, despite those of us civil society, the faith-based groups now appear to be the ones that can command the people, and even if they are hungry, they will come out. They can attend symposiums, seminars. That's what we need. I don't really subscribe that we take to the street. We can organize ourselves, bring out the facts, sensitize ourselves to understand the importance why we must stand up. That's why you see me carefully quoting these sections of the Constitution, because you will be amazed that many Nigerians don't even understand that they are not doing us a favor. We are their masters. The electors are the masters of the elected officials. But they succeeded in, for all these years, they've succeeded in pushing a narrative to think that once they attain power, we are conquered. And whatever they do with the Commonwealth is a charity they are doing to us rather than justice. If they do brick and mortar development, we should praise them when it is actually their duty. We need to, you know, it's like the good book content said that you need the voice of a king. While they put out those kind of devil philosophy, there is urgent need for another voice that will be able to sensitize the good people of Nigeria to understand that's false, it's not correct. That we owe ourselves moral, social, religious, civic, constitutional basically responsibility to engage these leaders. And there are the Constitution has empowered us as ordinary citizens to do so. It's like the media is doing right now under Section 22. To mobilize us to hold the people accountable, and this is an example of it. So there is need, people should join their voice. We need more voices. That is not a punishment. When he who is down fear no fall. We're not talking about that. No, we're saying that if we don't do this, the next generation will not forgive us.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.